It's always hard. It's always really, really hard when something is revealed or announced and it seems like the most perfect thing in the world. And then the rug gets pulled out from under you. And it turns out it's really not what you thought it was or were hoping that it would be. And when it turned out that like the really big third-party exclusive Switch 2 game was going to be a FromSoft title, an original Switch 2 exclusive FromSoft title that looked just amazing. Looked so good. It was such a happy day. But then learning that it's a competitive multiplayer game. Yeah, no, it hurt. It did. I'm not really in these games for the multiplayer aspect. I know a lot of people are. I was really looking forward to a pretty traditional experience, and I was like holding out hope that maybe it would be playable single player, but no. It has been confirmed. This really is a competitive multiplayer game. In fact, all of the different environments that we see in the trailer, those are maps. Those are like distinct, separate maps. This is not one big world. So yes, this is hard to take. It certainly is, especially just because just the way the game looks, just the visuals and the setting and everything, it looked just really, really good. It really just connects with me. It's everything that I could want from one of these games, like visually. And then it's also hard for me because, like, I love FromSoft games. I love Souls-likes. And Elden Ring is really cool, but it's great that it's so huge. But I'm also kind of looking forward to when FromSoft dips back into something a little smaller again. Just because, it's different. Big and open is great in its own way, but I also like the idea of smaller, more tight experience. I mean, it's kind of the Zelda thing, isn't it? It's not quite the same thing, but it's sort of along those lines, where I'm really looking forward to playing something just a little bit smaller and tighter in scope, and I was kind of hoping this would be that, and it is not. So yes, there is a part of me that is I feel a bit of hype whiplash here. And I talked about a lot of this in my other video on Duskbloods. Go check it out if you didn't see it or whatever. However, I really don't want the tone of this video to be overly negative, because even if I am personally disappointed, I do have to say, we could still have something pretty darn special here. Nintendo just did their little like developer interview thing with Hidetaka Miyazaki, which is really great. And I'm glad that they talked with him because he got to like clear up a bunch of stuff. And he's basically the father of the genre. One of the very, very few people in a position like his in this industry whom I trust completely. One of the very few like big video game guys who I think he gets it. I think he gets it. I think he gets us. I believe in him 100%. And in this little interview that Nintendo published on their website, he kind of gave a better idea of what the game is like. And I really have to say, there really is a lot here to suggest that this could be something good. Something really special. It is immediately obvious that this is not like Night Rain, because Elden Ring Night Rain, that's coming out next month. That takes Elden Ring and kind of remixes it into this like quick run-based kind of thing. It's basically just like a cheap roguelike mode for Elden Ring, which is fine. As always, I would say I think that's great. Sometimes it's okay to be cheap, to produce something just kind of fun, something that would not have existed otherwise if you hadn't just done the cheap thing and did it. It's a fun little experiment, seems great. But this is not that. That's cheap. This does not seem cheap. It really doesn't. This game seems to be Miyazaki's baby. And I mean, if anything, that's a reason to have faith in the project, because he clearly really cares about this. I don't know if the ideas for this and Night Rain came about at the same time, if maybe just throughout the company, everybody was kind of just getting an idea they wanted to do kind of a more multiplayer heavy thing. I really don't know, but apparently FromSoft and Nintendo sat down at some point to just kind of hash out ideas. It seems for a while now. They've just wanted to work together, do something exclusive for Switch. And it's clear that he is bringing his very clear artistic vision to this. And you know, as I mentioned before, we can see it in the trailer. This doesn't just look like a multiplayer mode of previous FromSoft stuff. There's a lot of that old DNA in there, but there's a lot of original stuff in here too. And like all of these like cutscenes and things. And apparently the rat character is kind of like this game's version of a firekeeper. It's like a rat with crow wings. And he jokes that this was his attempt to do something a little more quote unquote cute for a Nintendo game. And I think that's really great. But like he cares about this project. He spends a lot of the interview just talking about the lore, like a really surprising amount. Just talking about the lore and the setup and these people and how they got like special blood and everything like this. Yeah, it's like I said, like this is his baby. But that's not even the best part. The thing is, even if this is a multiplayer game, this really does sound like the kind of multiplayer game I have never before seen or played in my life. And it's funny because originally it seems they were developing this for Switch and he wanted it to be multiplayer then. But then when the Switch 2 came around and they had access to a dev kit, and the Switch 2 has way more social features, game chat and all that, he was like, well, perfect. This is even better. Now we can really, really dial into that multiplayer thing. And he describes the game as PvPvE. So like, yes, there are players fighting each other, but then there are also players fighting, enemies and bosses and whatnot. And it seems that yes, for the most part, this is like, you start a match with up to 8 players, somebody is going to win. He says it is generally going to be like last person standing, but there are so many other factors to consider, so many other ways to play rather than just, fighting each other. It's not just fighting each other until someone is left. He says how players conduct themselves during a match is just as important as direct combat. He explains that the game uses victory points, where yes, generally last person standing is going to get a lot of points or whatever, but you can earn victory points in different ways. He mentions that you can earn victory points in ways that are not necessarily related to killing other players. You can be opportunistic. And because this world is filled with enemies and bosses and such, I can imagine that a lot of it has to do with that. So it's kind of like, even though it's a multiplayer game, you could spend a lot of time just doing your own thing and potentially maybe even winning because you did it well enough. He says that there's going to be some sort of event system where in the middle of a match, something can just like pop up and like change the game world or even potentially change the objectives of the game, of the match. I don't know if that means that sometimes it will just not be about last person standing. Suddenly it's y'all gotta beat this boss or something. I don't know, but like that's exciting. And then roles. Characters can be given roles that just completely change what they do in the world. And I don't mean like cleric, like tank. It's not that kind of role. He describes 2 roles, which currently are called Destined Rival and Destined Companion, where you start a match and you are told, hey, this other player over here is your special enemy. It is of utmost importance that you destroy that person, or hey, this person over here, they're your bud. Like we're just telling you, that's how this match is gonna go. You are now friends with this person. And I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know if you have to like track them down if they know that you're their destined companion, or if you have to like convince them or what. I don't know how that's gonna work, but I am absolutely fascinated by the idea. And he has like other little details too. You pick a character, but apparently there's still gonna be a fair amount of customization. Everybody has a ranged attack. Everybody can summon a different entity. I do really like that dinosaur one we saw in the trailer. The little stuff. But yeah, to me, it's really this whole, the event system and the victory points and the roles. I don't know. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't play enough multiplayer games to know what kinds of innovations have hit the gaming scene in recent years. I know there are a lot of multiplayer games out there, but to me, this seems very unique. Very, very unique. It's like a game where, yes, it is competitive, and at the same time, there are so many ways, potentially, to not directly compete, which is good for me, because as I've said, I'm really not good at these games. If I have to go up against another person, I am not going to win. It's not going to happen. I don't play multiplayer games enough to get good enough at them. Like, I can't be better than the average person. It's why, like, every time a Splatoon game comes out, it's happened 3 times now, I go, I love this game, I think it's really fun, this is the time I'm really gonna get good enough to play online, and I can't. I'll win a match, and then I'll never win another match forever. Doesn't matter how much I play. I can't put enough into it. So, like, I'm scared of trying in this game, but at the same time, if there's gonna be a competitive multiplayer game that's gonna get me into it, it's gonna be one that gives me a lot of other tools to not just directly compete. If we're trying to secure victory points in all these other ways, and sometimes we're working together, then that's intriguing to me. It really, really is. I do still worry about the times when I am forced to just fight someone. I feel like that's going to be inevitable. Especially if it does seem that it is still like mostly about last person standing, and that could still have the potential to kind of ruin the experience for me, where I'm like, yeah, I like it all, but every single time it's like, all right, now kill this person, and I just can't. I don't know if that is doable. At the same time, though, I'm really intrigued, and more from just like a, I don't know, a design philosophy standpoint, I am kind of floored by what I've heard about this game. Because, like, one of Nintendo's whole things is doing something that everyone else is doing, but doing it in their own way, putting a different spin on it. And that is frequently enough to get me to play something that I would not have cared about otherwise. You know, like Splatoon. I don't really care about competitive shooters. It's just not my thing. And yet, you put that kind of weird Nintendo spin on it, where now you're also inking the ground and you're moving through it. Like, now I'm interested. And just over the years, there have been so many examples of that, of Nintendo doing a thing a little bit differently and thus capturing my interest. And often, of course, capturing the interest of a lot of other people who are also enamored with this very novel way of playing. And so now here we see a multiplayer game that, yes, I'm kind of intimidated by the idea, and at the same time, I am also intrigued, and I feel like this is not just a FromSoft game on Switch 2, you know? This is not just, hey, you want to make a game for us? Kind of like one of your games, except it'll be on Switch 2 instead. Miyazaki is really bringing, he's really understanding that Nintendo essence, like when it comes to multiplayer. Nintendo gets that multiplayer games, those kinds of experiences, it's not just playing a game with multiple people at once. You know, I mean, like, it can, obviously, but like for them, they really like to focus on that, like, human to human experience. It's why they stuck with local multiplayer for so long, because, like, nothing is better than multiple people playing on one couch in one room. Those are the kinds of experiences that really stick with you. And for me, playing a multiplayer game where I gotta be good enough and beat the other person, I'm really not that interested at all. Again, I like Splatoon because at the very least I can be inking things. I can be helping in some other way. So here you have a competitive FromSoft game where there's also all of this other stuff to do. Just imagine the kinds of experiences and interactions that are unlocked by all of these weird things, these weird events that can happen suddenly, or these unique roles that completely change the player interaction dynamic. Imagine the stories that are going to be created from this game by having these unique roles. Oh, and then suddenly I was like friends with this guy and we had to like fight together, and I don't know. Those are the kinds of stories that I'm interested in. Those are the kinds of experiences that I'm interested in having. This game seems like it's going to create stories and create the kinds of scenarios where if you come out on top, for me at least, it's gonna feel 100 times better than if I just bested somebody. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm just fascinated. I'm fascinated by what I've heard about this game as a multiplayer experience, but then also just how perfect it is as an experience on a Nintendo platform. I get this guy, Miyazaki, like he really knows what's up, and I really do trust him completely. And I'm amazed by just the artistry that he is bringing to this. He clearly cares so much about like the world and the lore, but then also the experience and it. So on the one hand, yes, it's a bit of a rug pull. It's a bit disappointing, but on the other hand, it also seems kind of perfect. And I'm really, really curious to see how the game turns out. And you know what? At the very least, even if I'm not going to play with randos, even if I'm not ever going to be good enough to like play with people online, now I'm imagining game chat and at least playing with a group of people that I know. I mean, this has incredible potential. Like really. Now I'm imagining playing it with a group of people, and even if I know I'm probably not going to be good enough to win, that still sounds really fun. And if we're like communicating with each other, that has some real potential. That has some real crazy potential to offer some real, I don't know, just some real multiplayer fun. So I am really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about it. I think it really could be something special.